Hello and welcome to Abundant Retirement Podcast. My name is Tony Roberts with A. Roberts and Associates. And if you'd like more information about our show today, please go to our website, arobertsassociates.com, or you can call us toll free at 888-955-3665. And while you're there, please check out our past podcast and pull them up, or you can subscribe to them through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Radio, and the like. Today, we're going to be talking about some tax friendly strategies that might be some things you might want to look into. A lot of people are always looking into what we call Roth IRAs and seeing how they can benefit them from a tax planning standpoint. Looking for tax-free income in retirement is always very, very important. I tell people all the time, two of your favorite words in retirement are tax-free. Never, ever forget that. But in addition to Roth, a lot of people don't understand that there is another strategy that exists out there, and it's cash value life insurance, which can also provide you tax-free income if it's structured properly. And again, there's a big S on structured properly. So you'll need somebody to sort of help you walk through this. It's not for everybody, as well as maybe Roths aren't for everyone. But these are some of the things we're going to talk about today. As you all know, we're usually joined by my $1 million co-host, the man we just call Mr. Radio, Tony Shore, but he's playing hooky today. So we are blessed. We are more than blessed to have the wonderful, the lovely Miss Jaclyn Gladhill here today to help assist me and talking about ways to help save you taxes in retirement. So without further ado, Jaclyn, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here today. And as I said earlier before we keyed on, you are so much easier to look at than Mr. Shore. I want you to know that.
Well, Tony, that is quite the intro, and thank you. I appreciate it. I know I'm not going to be as good as Tony, and I know you guys have such a great relationship, but I am willing to step in, and I am excited to do this podcast with you. And so how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. As we talked a little bit off air before we started today, my family and I just got back from Greece. We were in Greece for 3 weeks. And I sort of spent last week, Labor Day week, trying to acclimate myself to working again and getting used to jet lag and recovering from a 7-hour time difference. But for any listeners out there that are contemplating going overseas, or especially maybe looking into going to Greece, I would highly suggest doing it because it was a lovely country. The people were lovely. The food was fabulous, and it's definitely something that is a bucket list type of thing if that's what you're into. So, yeah,
And and for
this
our
is cool.
yeah, and for our viewers, not our listeners, but for our viewers, you look really tan. So it looks like you got some sun.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I turned red before I turned brown, so I didn't quite get on my wife's Indian heritage when it comes to that right there. But yeah, it was beautiful over there. We spent a lot of time, outdoor. We walked 65 miles in 3 weeks.
Wow.
I had my stepper on my phone, and we walked 65 miles in 3 weeks. And Jaclyn, I will not be kidding you. My lower back and right knee let me know how far we did walk that time. But
I'm
yeah,
I'm sure. I mean,
so we
did
were
you
out.
just get a brand new pair of tennis shoes just for the trip and then throw them when you're
Well, you
done?
know what? That's probably what I should have done, but or maybe I should have put an extra layer of cushion in them or something. But anyway, it was all good from this time. But yeah, we were outside a lot, so yeah, we did take in a lot of sun, and that was cool. It was all good.
Yeah. I
But the weather
was
was fabulous. It was
yeah.
it was like mid 80s, low humidity. It was blue skies, blue water, the Aegean Sea. It was a fabulous trip. So yeah,
Yeah, and now
we had
you
a good
come
time.
back and it's full on fall, right?
Yeah, isn't it crazy? It's fall, it's football. I mean, it was like 49 degrees here this morning when we got up this morning, which is like 20 degrees lower than what normal lows are for this time of year. So
Yes.
yeah, it's fall.
Yes.
But you know what's the good thing about fall? It's football. Thank you, Lord.
Mhm.
Thank you. Football is here. Even though we
Yes.
get beat on Saturday, so be it. It's part of life. At least you got
Well,
something
and
to do.
and honestly, I mean, here in Minnesota, we are getting the colder weather, the fall weather, but we also are getting the sun. And that's all that I could ever ask for. I'm like,
Yeah,
it's perfect fall weather with the sunshine out, and it's worth being outside playing football.
yeah,
Watching it, but also playing it would be fun too.
yeah.
So,
No
but
doubt
yeah.
about it. No
Well,
doubt about
Tony,
it.
this topic sounds great. And I'm excited to hear more about, kind of the comparison between life insurance, Roth IRA, right? Regular 401k, all of these can get very confusing. And so
Yeah.
having somebody in the back pocket, like a financial services professional like yourself, can really explain these to you and know which path is correct for you. And so tell us more. Where are we going to start today?
Well, I tell you what. Without further ado, this conversation is sort of it sort of centers around a recent report that U.S. News and World Report did that talked about life insurance versus Roth IRAs, which is better for retirement security. And as we talk each and every week, retirement can be overwhelming. I mean,
Mhm.
it there's a lot of things, and the biggest thing that people will always look at me, Jaclyn, and ask, what's your biggest fear with retirement? And they normally will sit there and say, do I have enough? And then they don't understand that it's about what they're putting in their pocket versus maybe a gross payout or whatever the case may be. So the two biggest costs in retirement are usually tax and healthcare. So today we're sort of going to talk a little bit about the tax side of things. And two words, as I mentioned earlier before we got started, that are good words in retirement are tax free. Well, where can you go and find tax free monies in retirement? Well, one can be with Roth, and again, for people out there that might be a little iffy on what Roth actually is, it's taking your qualified money, your 401k money, your traditional IRA monies, and things of that nature, and you're saying, you know what, I'm going to pay the tax on those accounts today, and I'm going to put them in what we call a Roth position so that they can grow tax free in the future. And I can eventually use that income of the growth tax free and not have to pay tax on it again. So, again, those are things that you have to look at. The problems with Roth is that you're somewhat restricted on how much you can maybe put into them, whether it be with Roth IRAs and different things like that. If you do what we call conversions, you got to be careful and not do too much because you might throw yourself into a higher income bracket or something of that nature right there. And these are things that you just got to be, taking a look at and making sure that you got them set up properly. Flipping it on the other side, a lot of people don't understand that cash value life insurance, permanent life insurance, whatever you might want to call it, also has the ability to have tax free income when you take that income stream through what we call net zero policy loans. And I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here from a technical standpoint or anything else like that, but these policy loans are construed to be tax free because to the IRS, a loan can't be construed as income. So that's the reason that you can take tax free income out of these cash value life insurance policies. Most people never pay the loans back. They just simply, let's say you got $1 million life insurance policy and you've taken $100,000 out of it tax free through policy loans. Well, if something happens to you and you pass away, then that $1 million would be decreased by the $100,000 of loans, and your beneficiaries are going to get a net $900,000 tax free payout. So, again, both strategies are somewhat popular. I would say the Roths are probably more popular than the life insurance, but the life insurance can be viewed to a degree, Jaclyn, as a Roth on steroids. Both of them will give you tax-free income, but the life insurance will give you leverage. I'll give you, for instance, I've got a doctor client that we've moved over the past 5 years $1 million into a life insurance product for about $2.5 million worth of life insurance. So again, if something were to happen to him, his heirs would get $2.5 million of tax-free monies versus $1 million of premium, which is what we put into the policy. But in his case, we front end loaded this. We put that money in over a 5 year period. We're going to let sit there for about another 5 years, and then we're going to turn on somewhere in the neighborhood of about $120,000 a year of tax free income to him to be paid out, and that's what we looked at to put this thing together. The other cool thing about it too is this is the life insurance. In addition to the life insurance for a leverage and a that play, the life insurance with a lot of these new hybrid policies also have chronic illness and long-term care provisions to where you can use the life insurance amount for that. And again, one of the biggest costs in retirement is the possible need for care and what that will amount to. So there's a lot of different things that go on here, Jaclyn, with Roth conversions, utilizing cash value life insurance for tax-free planning, as well as estate planning and long-term care planning. So a lot of things to look at. Uh, May like one or both, who knows? But until you really sit down and see how this thing applies to you and your family, you may not even know they exist. So these are just things that we're always wanting to talk to our clients about when we sit down and have a conversation with them.
Yeah, absolutely, Tony. And to your point, I mean, I guess I have a question for you is the cash value of life insurance, is that only upon death that you can receive that?
Oh, no, no, no. So if you got cash value in a life insurance policy, uh, I've got people that play bank with it. You know, if you got 15, 20, 30,000, 50,000, $100,000 worth of cash value. Let's say you're going to go out and buy, I don't know, a new SUV, cost 40,000. Okay. Well, you could sit there and finance that through the Toyotas and GMCs of the
Mhm.
world, or you could sit there and say, you know what? What if I just take this 40,000 out of my life insurance policy, and instead of paying a monthly premium to Toyota for buying my new SUV, what if I just set it up and I'll pay myself back, even with interest if you want to, or maybe you want to do it interest free. So you sort of play bank to yourself.
Yeah.
So again, no, when you have the cash value that accumulates in these policies, it is there for you, and it sits on your asset book just like any other asset. So, it's no different if you've got $40,000 cash value in a life insurance policy of having $40,000 on an asset page in an investment or in a CD or a savings account, checking account, or whatever the case may be. So, no, accessing the money in the life insurance policy is something that you can readily do, and it's pretty painless. It's just contacting the carrier and getting the monies out.
Yeah. Well, that's great to know for me and our listeners, right? And so, when it comes to the Roth IRA and you talking about tax free in retirement, because we all
Yeah,
want that. I mean, we all want tax free, period, right?
right.
But so, are you applying the taxes? Are you paying those taxes when you put the money in for both?
For the most part, yes. So again, if you were to pick up what we call a Roth option, let's say you're working and you got a 401k. Most of the companies today that you work for will still have your traditional 401k, or they'll have what they know as have a Roth 401k component. The difference is simply this: traditional 401k, you get to put the money in before taxes, so you don't have to pay the taxes today. The money grows tax deferred. And down the road, when you take that money out for retirement, you not only have to pay taxes on the principal, but you'll have to pay taxes on whatever the growth is.
Hmm.
Okay. That's the traditional route. And that was what was put into play back in the 70s and 80s. And for the most part, was that way for probably 20 plus years. Then they came around with the Roth component. And the Roth component simply says this: I'll allow you to go ahead and pay the taxes now. You put it into the growth, but now the earnings and the growth is going to be tax free for you when you get to retirement. So I grew up in a farming community, and I'll lay this out, Jaclyn, as simple as possible. Okay.
Yeah, please do.
Traditional 401ks, traditional TSPs, traditional IRAs are like planting the seed and harvesting the harvest, and you have to pay taxes on the entire harvest.
Hmm.
Okay. If you go the Roth route, or if you go possibly maybe even the life insurance, if you want to look at it like that, you pay tax on the seeds as it goes in the ground. But then when you get the harvest 6 months down the road, it's all tax free. The harvest is going to come to you tax free. You don't have to pay for those seeds growing into the multitudes of, corn or soybeans or whatever the case may be in that case right there. So again, that's a way to look at it. If you can afford to pay the tax now, does it make sense to do so? And I would argue that it does today because we are in an increasingly low income tax environment because of the 2017 Tax Act, which was just made permanent as part of the big, beautiful bill. Now, Jaclyn, you may be old enough to know or may not be old enough to know. There's nothing permanent in Washington, D.C. Okay.
Yes, correct.
But as long as President Trump is in place and who knows after him, what it ends up being. But uh, the next president, Congress, anybody can go in and blow up permanent and saying, you know what, we're raising taxes down
Mhm.
the road. And there's a part of me that thinks sooner or later that will happen because we're also $37 trillion in debt on our
Yes.
balance sheet, and somebody's got to eventually pay that off. So these are just different things that you have to look at.
Mhm.
Um, a couple of other things out there that are different between Roth and possibly using cash value life insurance is that with Roth, you are restricted or capped on the amount of monies that you can put into these programs, either through outside IRAs or through your company retirement plans. They cap you on the amount of monies that you can put into them. And then they further get into the weeds a little bit and saying, well, if you earn this amount of money, you may not be able to participate in Roth. Um, things like that you have to look at. The Roth has to be in place for 5 years before you can start
Mhm.
taking the tax-free benefits off of it. You also have to hit age 59 and a half, which is the same as with the traditional plans, before you can start taking that tax-free income off of it. So again, you've got rules and restrictions in place with the Roth. You do not have those rules and restrictions in place with the life insurance. Regardless of how old you are, you can stick as much money into it as well as you want to.
Mhm.
Again, you do have to make sure you avoid what we call it turning a contract into a modified endowment contract, which means you're sticking too much money into it for the amount of life insurance you got. But again, if you're working with somebody that understands these strategies and how to set them up properly, these are all things that come into play. So,
Yeah.
with some of my wealthier clients, Jaclyn, we utilize both because they are limited on what they can put into Roth, and
Mhm.
they're sitting there saying, "Hey, look, Tony, I need to put more monies above and beyond into some type of vehicle, and I would prefer it to be tax free." And we start having a conversation about the cash value life insurance and whether or not it makes sense or not. So,
Yeah.
things to look
And
at.
Tony, and like you said, I mean, there's a lot of exceptions. There's a lot of fine line rules in there. There's a lot of things that are possibly hidden in all of these. And so, working with a financial services professional like yourself is so valuable and so important to any financial strategy because there's a lot of hidden things that you know best, and your knowledge and your experience doing this will guide your client.
Well, that's what we try to do. I mean, my job, Jacqueline, is I think is simple. I mean, like, realistically, with my clients, I'm a specialist who main job is to bring concepts, ideas, and strategies to
Mhm.
them that they may or may not have heard of, to have a conversation about them, to see if any of them radiate to a point of saying, I like this, I don't like this, or whatever the case may be. Is this going down this path better for me or going down this other path better for me? And let's start having a conversation about them. And the things that, again, resonate, make sense, then let's dig a little deeper and see if it really is something that we want to bring into the fold or not. And once we sort of start landing on some things, and especially when dealing with tax, I'm not a CPA, I'm not a tax attorney, but when we start dealing with tax and we find some things that resonate, then guess what? Let's talk. Let's call up your professionals. Let's call up your other people that surround you, and get your CPA's opinion. Maybe get your tax attorney's opinion of saying, look, these are some things that we're thinking about doing. Does it make sense? Is
Mhm.
this in the best interest of Bobby and Sally client to do something like this? And if it is, then let's go about doing it. And what I try not to do is back myself into a corner or back our firm into a corner, Jaclyn, from a standpoint of just saying, well, it's cash value life insurance. There's a pretty
Mhm.
well-known radio personality that when you say cash value life insurance, he just, for lack of a better word, says poo-poo. Okay. Well, you know what? It may be poo-poo for one person, but for other
Mhm.
people, it might be exactly what they need to be doing.
Yes.
And the same thing with annuities, with investment strategies, and different things like that. I try to tell our people here at the office, I said, we use all the tools in the toolbox.
Mhm.
And for different people, different tools might be more relevant to them than others. And so, again, we have conversation about this. Uh, I had a couple in here the other day, and I mean, they were probably $5 to $10 million in assets. And the husband just looked at me and said, Tony, I hate annuities. Then I'm like, okay, then we won't talk about annuities. But guess what? His wife's got 6 of them. So I'm like, you want me to talk to her about annuities, or do you want me to not talk about annuities? What do you want me to do?
We
But
gotta be on
it's
the
just,
same page,
yeah.
right?
What do you want me to do here? But again, it's just, and he started laughing. He knows what I'm talking about. But they're good people, but different people just
Mhm.
relate to different things in different ways. But again, some people didn't even know that you can have a tax-free. The only 2 places you can get tax-free income off of investments are Roth IRAs
Mhm.
and cash value life insurance. A lot of people just don't know that, and
Yeah.
especially the life insurance piece. So, again, would you rather give your kids $1 million that's taxable, or $2.5 million that's tax free?
Mhm.
Most people say, well, I'd rather give them the $2.5 million that's tax free. Well, you've just sat there and basically, you know, signed up for the underpinning of what life insurance is all about. And then you just sort of look at it and take some of the other pieces. One thing that has really driven life insurance, though, Jaclyn, lately is the insurance companies a few years back beginning what they call these hybrid plans, to
Okay.
where the life insurance amount can be used for long-term care. Because
Oh.
many people, as they go into retirement, have not planned properly for long-term care, and life insurance gives them a way to do that. Even if they end up never ever going to a place they really don't want to go to, they haven't put a bunch of money into a policy that they're not going to get some benefit out of it, either themselves
Mhm.
or their heirs. So again, it's a conversation, something to talk
Yeah,
about.
important topics to
Yeah,
discuss for sure.
yeah, yeah.
And Tony, this is why it's so important to work with a financial services professional, because there's just so many that you can walk through your clients, kind of all about this, explain it. And so when it really comes down to decision making with your clients across that table, having this discussion with them, what's likely to come up or what's important to know or discuss?
Well, again, we start, and with probably 95% of the people that we work with, the thought of retirement is very, lack of a better word, scary.
Mhm.
Uh, and the one thing that is very scary about it, and people will always say this, is the fact of, do I have enough to retire? Have I
Yes.
saved enough money in wherever it be,
Mhm.
individually, in my employer plan, or whatever the case may be? Do I have enough? And then not only that, but does it allow me to still live the lifestyle that I become accustomed to living? Uh, there's some myths in our industry, Jaclyn. A lot of people have heard through the years, oh, you can live on 20 or 30% less money when you retire.
Mhm.
Well, my thought is, well, what 20 or 30% of your life are you going to cut out?
Mhm.
Because just because you retire doesn't mean you want to give up the lifestyle which you become accustomed to.
Mm.
What dictates your lifestyle? Usually the amount of money that you're making.
For sure.
So again, when we go into a retirement plan for people, if they're used to living on $10,000 a month before they retire, we're trying our best to secure that they're going to live on about $10,000 a month initially in retirement, so they don't take a lifestyle hit. And then we've got to grow that, because we know 5 and 10 years down the road, it's going to cost more money to live than it costs to live today because of inflation. So we've got to be able to grow that money. And these are just the things that we have to go about doing when we're putting those plans together. So, you know, where's the money going to come from? How much is taxes going to eat out of it? What about health care? Can I still support the lifestyle that I've become accustomed to? And then some people are very concerned about their legacy, others
Mhm.
aren't, and it's okay.
Mhm.
I've got a couple of well, I had one couple one time said, Tony, I don't care if our last check bounces. We've given our kids enough through the years. We don't, this is our money. This is
Yeah,
our time. But
absolutely.
then you have other clients who sit there, and legacy is a big, big issue. I want to leave my children better and my
Mhm.
grandchildren better off than I was left. And so legacy becomes a big time. So again, what works right into legacy, uh, tax-free Roth, but also the life insurance component. So again, these are things that you can look at. I mean, with qualified plans and with your 401ks, you can put back, if you're over 50, up to 31,500 a year, depending if you're 60 to 63, that number goes up to
Wow.
34,750. Where they came up with 3 years there to give you an increased benefit is beyond me. I have no clue how they blew that out of the air, but they did. But again, what if you got somebody that says, I want to put 100 grand back a year? Well,
Mhm.
now they're handcuffed because of parameters and rules. Then maybe that life insurance piece is a play that makes sense for those folks. So
Yeah.
again, open conversation is very, very important when you're trying to sit down and put together a plan that works not only for the next 6 months, but for the next 6 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years,
Mhm.
to get you through retirement and see what it looks like. And that's what we specialize in. That's what we have fun doing. Uh, been doing this for almost, well, over 40 years now. So it's a lot of fun.
Wow. Well, Tony, this has been a great conversation. Thank you for teaching me and the listeners more about kind of the differences between all of these because they can get very confusing. And
Yeah.
you did it very well. And we were able to make some jokes in between and laugh. So I appreciate that. Tony, is there anything else you want to add before we close out today?
No, just to all the listeners or who may be watching this on podcast or whatever the case may be. Again, uh, reach out to us if you want to have some conversations about these topics we talked about today or some topics we talked about in the past. Uh, First two consultation meetings are no charge. We're trying to get to know each other, trying to see if we can even help you or not.
Mhm.
But again, reach out to us. It doesn't cost anything. In fact, we'll buy you a cup of coffee if you want us to. So
A
go to our
Starbucks latte?
website.
A
Yeah, well,
pumpkin
yeah, we get
pumpkin
the
spice?
lattes. We can do americanos. We can do it. We got a heck of a coffee maker upstairs. I'm telling you what. We can do anything you want to. But A Roberts at associates.com. Again, 888-955-3665. You can email us at info@abundantretirementplanning.com. So again, abundantretirementplanning.com. But there's numerous ways to reach out to us. Let's start having a conversation, see if there's anything there we can find some common ground on that can be a benefit to you. And if we can help you, we'll outline it, show it to you, and give you a good response on what we're trying to help you accomplish, as you lead up into retirement, or even if you're already into retirement, maybe getting a second set of eyes to take a look at what you got going on and where you're trying to get to and achieve.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Tony, you said it yourself. Go get that pumpkin spice latte from him. That's all I have to say. Um, yes. And thank you for letting me join the show with you today. I had a blast, and I'm sure Tony will be back. Tony and Tony will be back and better than ever. But thanks for letting me fill in for a week. So I
Well,
appreciate it.
I appreciate you being here, Jaclyn, and look forward to us doing a show together sometime in the near future.
Me too. And I will see you in person next
You
week.
will. I'll be up in your neck of the woods next week, so hopefully we get to see each other a little bit.
Yes. All
Okay.
right. Well, that does it for this episode of Abundant Retire with our host, Tony Roberts.